Welcome to your favourite day of the week, everyone, where today we're going to be diving deep into the deep blue, deep dark ocean in order to uncover one of mankind's greatest mysteries and find out the truth behind what happened to the city of Atlantis. I hope you brought your armbands, I hope you brought your snorkels, and I hope you brought your swimming trunks, because it's about to get very wet. The idea and mythology behind the lost city of Atlantis has captivated people's imagination for generations, even enough for me to sit here in a snorkel and tell you about it. With the suggestion the city was a utopia, an amazing advanced civilization with technology far beyond their time. People have dedicated thousands of hours in the search for finding the lost city of Atlantis, and historians have debated if it actually existed. But why? Why has this seemingly fictional city become the holy grail of mysteries? Why am I sat here in a snorkel? Why? We're gonna find out. Well, what we know for certain is we can date back the first mention of Atlantis to 360 BC, where the story was first told in Greek philosophers Plato's two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. According to Plato, the utopian kingdom existed 9,000 years before his time, and described Atlantis as an island larger than Libya and Asia Minor put together, located in the Atlantic just beyond the Pillars of Hercules, generally assumed to mean the Strait of Gibraltar. The story goes that the city of Atlantis was built by the Greek god Poseidon when he fell in love with the mortal woman Plato. He built the city in order to protect her. She bore him 5 pairs of twins, with the oldest being Atlas. Poseidon named the city after his son Atlas and the ocean surrounding it after him, and he became the first ruler of Atlantis. The city of Atlantis was surrounded by rings of water and land, and is believed to have been a self-sufficient region where people grew their own food and reared animals. According to Plato, Atlantis was inhabited by people who are more beautiful and intelligent than the rest of the world, and the people were also godlike, and said that living there was a utopian experience. The Atlanteans' culture was so advanced, and as they grew powerful, their ethics declined and became extremely naughty and corrupted. Their armies conquered as far as northern Italy and Egypt, and they subjected people to slavery, but they were later repelled by an alliance led by the Athenians from Athens. Later, by way of divine punishment, they were finally put on to the naughty step, and their city was beset by earthquakes and floods before it sank into the muddy sea. That's why we brought our snorkels. In his book, Encyclopedia of Dubious Archaeology, Professor of Archaeology Ken Federer notes that in Plato's story, Atlantis is not a place to be honoured or emulated at all. Atlantis is not the perfect society, quite the contrary. Atlantis is the embodiment of a materially wealthy, technologically advanced, and militarily powerful nation that has become corrupted by its wealth, sophistication, and might. The Atlantis legend is more about the city's heroic rival, Athens, who bested them in combat and liberated many civilizations, more than it is about a sunken city. If Atlantis really existed today and was found intact and inhabited, their residents would probably try and enslave us and kill us all, which is probably much more appealing than watching a video of me with a snorkel on. Before Plato's story, there is no mention of the city in any recorded documents of writings. Plato's writing Critias said he'd heard the story of the Atlantis from his grandfather, who had heard it from an Athenian statesman, Solon, who had learned it from an Egyptian priest, who said it happened 9,000 years before that. The historical accuracy of Plato's tale was even controversial in his time, and even doubted, and you can see why. It was from his grandfather's friends. He's like that drunk person down the pub telling you a really interesting story but has no evidence to back it up. You listen to him but think he's a madman. So we're at this point now where Plato's tale has been doubted by people he's there. So how did we get to this point now where we imagine the legend of Atlantis much more vividly than Plato's telling of it? Who popularised the story today? Today's fascination of the city begins in 1882 in a book by a Minnesota congressman, Ignatius Donnelly, called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. He stated that all great advances in civilization and technology could be traced back to the long-lost island mentioned by Plato. Donnelly went above and beyond of just popularising Plato's story, and he added some of his facts of his own to it. Donnelly essentially promoted what is now called diffusionism, the idea that all great cultures can be traced back to a single source, with this source being Atlantis.
He saw it as a technologically advanced civilization with a more advanced culture, and he believed it was where the Garden of Eden existed. Donnelly is described as the first great Atlantis fundamentalist, in that he believed that Plato's story was factually accurate outside the supernatural elements like Poseidon. Donnelly's book was sent to Charles Darwin, who found it interesting but unpersuasive. Donnelly was certain of his theory, predicting that hard evidence of the sunken city would soon be found, and that the museums around the world would one day be filled with artifacts of Atlantis. However, 130 years later, we still have no evidence of it. So why hasn't any evidence of this city been found and been put in a museum? Where did it go? And more importantly, what happened to it? A map from Donnelly himself, which reveals the extent of the Atlantean Empire, shows the location of Atlantis to be where Plato's accounts originally mention it to be, just past the Strait of Gibraltar in the Atlantic Ocean. However, since Donnelly's day, every location possible has been proposed for Atlantis, to the point where the name has become a generic concept, divorced from the specifics of Plato's accounts. This is reflected that many of the proposed sites are not within the Atlantic Ocean itself. Atlantis, 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 Atlantis. It's everywhere. Anything could be Atlantis. Where is it? Why haven't we found it yet? Sites theorised to be the location of Atlantis would have to share the same characteristics of the story: an ocean, a catastrophic end, and a relevant time period. For this reason, to share the characteristics, many theories have placed the city around or near the Mediterranean Sea, as around 1600 BC, a major catastrophic volcano eruption called the Minoan eruption caused a large tsunami that some experts hypothesize devastated the Aegean island of Thera, now called Santorini. Because of this, it has further led some people to believe that this catastrophe inspired the events of Plato's story around Atlantis. Many other islands around the Mediterranean and Atlantic Ocean have been suggested for possible locations of the underwater city, even stretching as far as the North Sea, the Bahamas and Indonesia. However, none have proven to be conclusive due to one reason or another. One of the most fantastic and plausible theories that has come out of this is that Atlantis was a more temperate version of Antarctica. It is based on the work of Charles Hapgood, whose 1958 book Earth's Shifting Crust featured a foreword by Albert Einstein. According to Hapgood, around 12,000 years ago, the Earth's crust shifted, displacing the continent that became Antarctica from a location much further north than it is today. This more temperate continent was a home to an advanced civilization, but the sudden shift to its current frigid location doomed the civilization's inhabitants, the Atlanteans, and their magnificent city was buried under layers of ice. Hapgood's theory surfaced before the scientific world gained a full understanding of plate tectonics, which largely relegated his shifting crust idea to the fringes of Atlantean beliefs. The program Ancient Aliens mentioned in an episode that Atlantis was located in Antarctica and was an alien civilization, and when the poles shifted, it was buried under the ice. It is believed by some people there is entire alien civilizations under Antarctica, and the government is working with them. That sounds silly. Another wild theory suggests that the Atlantis was swallowed up by the Bermuda Triangle. No. But I'll tell you it anyway. In the 1970s, Charles Berlitz claimed Atlantis was a real continent located off the Bahamas that had fallen victim to the notorious Bermuda Triangle, in a region of the Atlantic where a number of ships had supposedly, under mysterious circumstances, disappeared. Supporters of this theory point to the discovery of what looked like man-made walls and street found off the coast of Bimini. Although scientists have evaluated these structures, they found them to be natural beach and rock formations. And then there's the most exciting theory of all, that Plato just made up the story as a propaganda piece for the Athenians. Yeah. I've been Jamie's Day, your favourite day of the week, and I'm gonna go make use of this snorkel in the bathtub. I'll see you all next time. Peace. People have dedicated thousands of hours in the search for finding the lost city of Atlantis, and historians have debated if it actually existed.